Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, August 3rd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Some might say it's better late than never as the COVID surge grows even more. So too are lines at testing and vaccination sites. And this comes as San Diego County is now the largest in the state to not issue a mask mandate. Sacramento, San Francisco, and 7 Bay Area counties have joined LA to implement them. KPBS reporter Melissa May looks at the growing concern here over the continued surge.
A line wrapped around the Kaiser Permanente building in La Mesa today.
I'm here to get tested for COVID.
Evan Spurgeon was one of the many people waiting to get tested. The student has been vaccinated, but he did come in contact with someone with the virus, and he hasn't been feeling well.
If I do have it, I do have high-risk family members, and I want to make sure that they're okay.
Kaiser Permanente members can receive free testing at any one of their 4 testing sites.
I got a big week coming up, so I want to make sure that I'm not spreading COVID to my new roommates. I'm supposed to go traveling this week. And I know the Delta variant has been kind of a big deal.
Dr. Aaron Lehman is a doctor at Kaiser Permanente and encourages people to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
Throughout the month of July and now going into August, the testing rates of positive patients have gone up from 2%. Now it's up to 9 or 10%. Definitely worrisome. And I think the medical community at a whole is concerned because we definitely were seeing great improvements.
There are 21 county testing sites that provide free COVID-19 testing, and many sites do not require an appointment. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And just moments ago, the county released the daily COVID case numbers. Another 1,204 local cases keeping pace with recent results. Overall, California is now among the top 3 states in new COVID cases. Florida and Texas, the other 2. The Delta variant is still fueling a nationwide surge with hospitalizations reaching wintertime levels. And as Isabel Rosales reports, the White House is renewing vaccination efforts.
A race to get Americans vaccinated.
We have a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
The U.S. reaching a major goal. 70% of adults have at least one COVID-19 shot.
In the past 2 weeks, we've seen a 55% increase in the average number of new people getting vaccinated every day.
The White House now setting its sights on the private sector.
I want to thank Walmart, Google, Netflix, Disney, Tyson Foods for the recent actions requiring vaccination for employees. Look, I know this isn't easy, but I will have their backs and the backs of other private public sector leaders.
As is New York City, set to become the first in the U.S. to require proof of vaccination to enter restaurants, gyms, performances, and other indoor activities.
It's time for people to see vaccination as literally necessary to living a good and full and healthy life.
Meanwhile, hospitals are once more filling up as COVID-19 tears through states with higher numbers of the unvaccinated, mostly in the southeast. Florida's governor doubling down against mandates as his state leads the nation in number of new cases.
There's people that were hermits for a year and a half that wore 6 masks and did that and still contracted it, okay? So let's just be real here.
In Louisiana, doctors are sounding the alarm. On Monday, the state's largest hospital ran out of beds.
This is the absolute worst that we've seen.
And in those hardest hit states, the White House says daily vaccination rates have more than doubled. In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
As we've reported, doctors are seeing younger and younger patients with COVID-19. Coming up on Evening Edition, what pediatricians want parents to know. Sweetwater Union High School, one of the first districts to return to school, is seeing positive COVID cases among students. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel spoke to some families at the district who are considering going back to online learning.
I thought that it was going to be a few hours, but it was shorter than I expected.
Lines reached all the way to the parking lot as parents and children flocked to the COVID testing site held at Eastlake High School Tuesday. Some students tell us that they have been advised to get tested as positive cases have been confirmed at school.
In my school, a lot of kids are getting infected by COVID.
Sofia Carreno is 2 weeks into the new school year at Eastlake Middle School. Although she is vaccinated and happy to be back for in-person learning, she's starting to have reservations.
Honestly, I kind of don't really want to go to in-person classes because I don't want to risk my health.
Her dad, Erico Carreno, says they're trying to do what's best for their kids. They are now looking into hybrid school options for their daughter, Sofia.
I think it's better to don't expose at this moment the kids.
Nadej Johnson is the communications director at Sweetwater Union High School District. She says in-person learning is going well. There haven't been any major outbreaks at school, but some kids have tested positive.
Testing sites have been very popular and active as well, and so we've been providing testing at several different locations throughout the week for the last 2 weeks.
Out of the 35,000 students attending in-person classes, 58 students have tested positive, according to the district's COVID dashboard. Johnson says with COVID still being a threat to the community, positive cases were expected. This is why they're continuing to offer free testing at different school sites.
We're requiring masks and testing. We know that testing, vaccinations, and wearing your mask is the best way to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
The San Diego Zoo Safari Park has closed the tiger trail habitat to visitors because of a possible COVID exposure. Zoo officials say some of the Sumatran tigers have a cough and have tested positive for the virus. All 6 tigers are quarantined at the moment. The zoo says a snow leopard that tested positive in July has now fully recovered from symptoms. Animals at the Safari Park and San Diego Zoo are scheduled to get vaccinated in the coming days. The San Diego City Council today approved the first overhaul of the city's parks master plan in 65 years. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the goal is equity.
In the past, neighborhood parks were largely funded by fees tied to new development. That meant newer and wealthier neighborhoods with more growth received a disproportionate share of park money. The new system requires that a portion of development fees, regardless of where they come from, go to underserved communities. Councilmember Vivian Moreno says the status quo has left her constituents behind.
Kids have no safe place to play in their neighborhoods. Seniors don't have safe places to walk and exercise. Park deprivation is why you see people playing soccer on basketball courts and in parking lots, and we felt it tremendously during the lockdown.
Councilmember Chris Cate cast the only vote against the park plan, saying he fears his district, which includes the fast-growing community of Kearny Mesa, could be left behind.
We have communities in my district that are going to be seeing tens of thousands of new units be built, potentially over 100,000 new residents come into my communities with really no assurances or guarantees that even a small bit of the funding that would come from those communities will go back to those communities for parks.
The park master plan update also includes incentives for more affordable housing, and it changes how the city evaluates park quality, with less emphasis on acreage and more emphasis on a park's amenities. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Sea lion pupping season is upon us, but safety concerns for the public and the marine life in La Jolla has prompted a request to close the beach to visitors. Following guidance by the California Coastal Commission, the city of San Diego submitted the application for the temporary closure of part of the shoreline during the annual pupping season. The area is beyond the seawall, beginning at Boomer Beach, ending at the stairway that leads to the bluff. Crowds had been getting too close to the sea lions, and they can become aggressive when they feel threatened. The permit would allow closure of the area starting this week through September 15th. San Pasqual Academy, the residential educational campus for foster youth in Escondido, has been granted an extension until next year, but no new students can enroll. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne tells us a lawsuit was filed today to secure the school's future.
The current foster youth at San Pasqual Academy will be able to stay on the campus until next June. In the meantime, no new youth will be referred to the program, meaning the academy's future looks dim.
So to take them out of this system and put them back in the structure, remember, these are the kids that were not only not thriving within the typical foster care system, they kind of fell out of the system. And, they could very easily end up on the streets because there's no placement for them.
Charles Lamandry is the attorney representing SPA supporters. They have filed a lawsuit against the state of California and the county of San Diego for the attempt to shut down the program. He says SPA is a unique institution and needs a carve-out in the federal law that prevents its funding.
They're going to need to give it a special licensing category because it is unique. It's not the typical foster care home situation, nor is it a group home, and it's certainly not one of these short-term residential facilities either.
Lamandry also claims the state and county violated the foster youth's rights.
There's something called the Foster Youth Bill of Rights, which is a statute on the Welfare and Institutions Code, which says that children in the foster care system, particularly those who are in the teenage years and high school bound, are entitled to have input into decisions that are going to affect their education and their living arrangements.
The youth and staff of SPA found out about the closure through a newspaper. Natasha Strain is a SPA alumni and one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit.
This place is like for kids 12 to 18, and that's the gap in foster care, where 12 to 18 is where foster parents usually don't want teenagers, and that's where adoption usually ends, because kids usually get adopted below 12. So this place is it kind of helps fill that gap. 12 to 18-year-olds feel more wanted here, a place where they can, be a teenager and grow up and become a better person in life.
Lamandry feels confident that a solution will be reached.
This is not a controversial issue. Everybody wants to help kids do better, and this is a program that works. So this is something we should all be able to get behind.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
A Trump-era border policy is being extended. The Biden administration will indefinitely continue the Title 42 policy invoked at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. It allows Customs and Border Protection to quickly expel migrants in order to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Hundreds of thousands, including asylum seekers, have been turned away at the U.S. southern border as a result. Immigrant advocates argue the policy has no health basis and puts migrants in harm's way. San Diego oceanographers have helped recover the remains of a military flyer who crashed off the shore of Vietnam more than 40 years ago. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has the details.
Recently developed underwater search technology has helped find the remains of an Air Force major. He was aboard a plane that crashed into the South China Sea in 1967. Finding the crash site in the open ocean took some work.
One of the workhorses is a underwater robot that has side scan sonar on board and allows us to survey wide areas in a very efficient means.
2 B-52s collided and crashed. 7 crew members were rescued, but 3 remained missing. Researchers had a general location, but they had to scour 8 square miles of ocean floor.
It makes it much more difficult to sort of put that exact pin in the map where the accident occurred. And so this being so far offshore, we had a decent location, but it's not like today where all these aircraft have, GPS units in them that are giving them, sub-meter location.
The debris field was located under about 80 feet of murky water. Divers inspected the underwater site. That led to the recovery of the remains of radar navigator Paul Avalisi. The search happened because of cooperation with Vietnam, the U.S. Defense POW MIA accounting agency, and researchers in San Diego and Delaware. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Wildfire is a constant threat to our region. In an effort to mitigate those threats, SDG&E today presented plans to preserve the environment and protect communities by reducing utility-related fire risk. The efforts include safety shutoffs, strategic undergrounding, an expanded generator grant program, as well as advanced clean technology. The plans also include a flow battery to keep critical facilities and customers energized during a power shutoff. Meanwhile, fires in Northern California are still raging. More people are being evacuated as 253,000 acres have already burned, and the fire is only 35% contained at this time. 67 structures have so far been destroyed as 5,000 firefighters work to fight the blaze.
Happy Tuesday. I hope you had an excellent day. Let's talk about our weather pattern here in San Diego County because the heat is back and it is going to stay on the dangerous side, especially on the eastern side of the county towards the deserts along the coast. That's where we are going to keep some areas of very dense fog during our Wednesday morning. And for the most part, our weather pattern stays dry in the upcoming days. Looking at Ramona and places like Escondido, heat advisories are in effect across your area, but for the most part, the worst of the heat again will stay mainly in places like Borrego Springs and towards the east of Mount Laguna. Now, here's a quick look at San Diego County heading into tonight. You'll notice those temperatures only dropping into the mid 80s across Borrego Springs, so it is going to be a very warm night for you. Along the coast, feeling a little bit more comfortable with mid and low 60s. As we take a look at our future radar, you'll notice conditions are going to stay dry across land. However, there comes the marine layer off the coast, and again, anyone driving very early in the morning, keep in mind the fog could be very dense at times. Eventually, it is going to turn very warm again into our Wednesday afternoon, especially across the desert southwest from California into Arizona. Places like Borrego Springs, we're going to be climbing up near 117 degrees for the afternoon. San Diego, mid 70s for our afternoon. So along the coast, we're going to stay in the upper 70s in the upcoming days. Keep in mind the marine layer could be with us in the upcoming days. As far as inland areas are concerned, we are warming up a little bit more here. 90 degrees for Thursday, 89 into our Friday. Across the mountains, low 80s for Wednesday, upper 70s into Thursday and Friday. And of course, the deserts here is where conditions could be dangerous. Make sure you are drinking plenty of fluids. I'm Marvin Gomez with your AccuWeather forecast for KPBS.
One of the largest healthcare providers in the U.S. is requiring all its physicians and workers get vaccinated against COVID-19 by the end of September. Lori Perez has the story.
We want our people to become the vaccine ambassadors for the community.
Kaiser Permanente announced it will make COVID-19 vaccines mandatory for all its employees and doctors across the nation as a way to create healthy hospitals and to set an example for the public. Kaiser is the largest private employer in LA County and one of the largest in the state of California.
The vaccines work, they are effective. And we as a healthcare delivery system want to model for you what a fully vaccinated team looks like.
It's protection, Dr. Nancy Jin says, for today and for what's down the road, because she says the Delta variant will not likely be the end.
Once this surge is over, there will probably be other variants that come down the pike. And we want to be prepared this time. We want to have a fully vaccinated community. So when those variants arise, the impact for our communities will be negligible.
The good news is, as cases spike, there is also now a surge in vaccinations. Here in California, state data shows 265,000 people were vaccinated the week of July 19th, up 20% from the week before. Once fully vaccinated, they'll have what they need for the growing number of bars and restaurants now requiring proof of vaccination or a recent negative COVID test for entry. A security guard was enforcing the new policy, and this couple was more than happy to get carded.
We're good with their policy. If it's going to keep everyone safe, it's going to limit the Delta variant from spreading, then we're good.
I just want to eat good food. If we're safe, that works.
Scott Brigner is a nurse at Cedar Sinai. We spoke to him back in January when COVID was killing one person every 10 minutes in LA County. Those numbers have thankfully dropped drastically. Now what scares him are the kinds of cases in the ICU. Younger, otherwise healthy patients who he says should not be there.
That's part of the scary thing, is when you're taking care of someone who's pretty much your age and you're looking and you're like, oh my gosh, and the only difference between the two of us was a vaccine.
That was Lori Perez reporting. Some of those younger patients are children who are too young to get vaccinated. Doctors in Orange County are concerned after seeing an increase in COVID infections in children. Michelle Gillet has more.
So all around seems like a significant, unfortunately, fast-paced uptick in the amount of cases that are being diagnosed.
Pediatricians are reporting that COVID in children is on the rise. Orange County Dr. Stephen Abelowitz says the increase has occurred over the past month.
Up to about a month ago, the numbers were a bare minimal, were maybe less than a couple a week, if at all. They almost went down to zero in the practice. And then we have since then been seeing, escalating numbers, almost doubling and tripling every week. We've probably became aware of somewhere between 50 and 70 of our patients or patients' family members in our communities in South Orange County that have been diagnosed.
More children are requiring intensive care, reports Children's Hospital of Orange County. This weekend, 41 kids tested positive there. 5 needed to be hospitalized, and 3 children were admitted to the ICU. Dr. Abelowitz says the majority of his sick patients are elementary school aged. They have cold-like symptoms, which he says makes it trickier for parents to know whether they should come to his office to have a COVID test.
Cough, runny nose, fevers. Then you've got some of the little more specific towards COVID, sometimes intestinal or gastrointestinal manifestations, vomiting and sometimes even abdominal pain and diarrhea. Seeing a little more headaches with those that are diagnosed these days.
A reminder, everyone age 12 and up may be eligible for a vaccine. You can find more information on our website, kpbs.org, and click on the vaccines link right there on our homepage. The CDC announced a new 60-day federal ban on eviction, citing the slow pace of state and local disbursement of housing aid. The moratorium is different from the one that expired on Saturday. It's for areas with high and substantial increases in COVID cases, covering close to 90% of American renters. California has its own eviction protections that last through the end of September. Military families are on the move right now, including right here in our community. It's the time of year when service members have orders to report to a new duty station, and that means uprooting not just themselves, but their families too. Brianna Keeler has more.
In Texas, we've lived in Germany, we've lived in Virginia, in Maryland, in Georgia, North Carolina, and now we're going to the West Coast.
It's moving season for the military, and Banna Miller, an Army spouse, is at it again with 4 kids in tow.
So my husband and I have been married 16 years, and this is our 11th move.
Each year, more than 400,000 service members receive orders to move, or as it's called in the military, PCS, a permanent change of station. Banna recounts the time every single bed was broken in a move.
So we had nowhere to sleep.
Even harder, getting kids settled in new schools and finding new friends.
Finding a new doctor, dentist, hairdresser, to, finding those people that you can call in the middle of the night if there's an emergency.
Only 27% of active duty family members said they feel a sense of belonging to their local community, according to the most recent annual military family lifestyle survey conducted by Blue Star Families. But civilians in their communities can help by simply reaching out, inviting them to activities or offering to help in the case of a future emergency. Simple ways to say thank you for your service.
I think if people could understand what it means to move 10, 12, 15 times over a 20-year career, I think there would be a lot more compassion and a deeper, less superficial understanding of the word sacrifice.
Brianna Keeler, Washington.
Yet another San Diegan bringing home an Olympic medal. Jennifer Valente won the bronze in women's team pursuit cycling as the Team USA beat Canada in the 4-kilometer race. The U.S. bid for a gold medal ended when they lost their first round heat to Great Britain. And it's a bronze medal for gymnast Simone Biles in the women's balance beam. Her performance marked her return after withdrawing from most of her events due to mental health concerns.
I honestly wasn't even expecting to medal on beam. I just was trying to go out there and hit a good beam set and compete one more time at this Olympic Games because I qualified for all five finals, but then I pulled out, so it sucked. But I was excited to be in the stands and cheering for all of Team USA.
Biles, who is often called the great gymnast of all time, has now won 7 Olympic medals overall. The beam event was her final one for these games in Tokyo.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, New York's Attorney General finds Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at today's top stories. More than 1,200 new COVID cases were reported in San Diego County today. Throughout July and now going into August, the positive rate has gone up from 2% to as high as 10%. A line for tests wrapped around the Kaiser Permanente building in La Mesa today. There are 21 county-run sites that provide free COVID testing. Many do not require an appointment. And Sweetwater Union High School is offering free rapid COVID tests to students in the district. Their school year started 2 weeks ago, and they're already seeing positive cases among students. Out of the 35,000 students attending in-person classes, 58 students have tested positive, and that's according to the district's COVID dashboard. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.